Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. My name is Chris and you are watching Wednesday's show. And we do have a fantastic show lined up for you today. The guest we have on is somebody you might have seen if you follow the YouTube channel in our Harrogate video, who we met up with there, which is fantastic. We do have a giveaway as well. If you've been watching the social media, if you follow the show on the podcast or on YouTube and you don't follow our Twitter, you really need to, because we do a lot of giveaways there. We buy a lot of books and a lot of good things there. So follow that. It'll be definitely worth your while. It's at writing_show on Twitter. So follow us. So there will be a competition, a giveaway, which people have already sort of signed up to on Twitter. The wheel of destiny has been preloaded with those people who are within the categories able to win that competition, and they're going to win all 7 of the paperbacks from tonight's guest, which is incredible. It's a fantastic prize, so look out for that. Also coming up in October, which is not too far away now, is our, if you remember last year, it was quite a mad time, our Halloween party. That will involve fancy dress, bringing people on the show, whether you're familiar to the show or not, and you want to come on and have a chat and a bit of a laugh, play some silly games perhaps, and of course we did a writing prompt last year with myself and Chris Hooley, read out hilariously. We have Julie Kesmo, who's a recent guest with a fantastic voice, who narrates her own horror stories, coming on to narrate our writing prompt story. So we cannot wait for that, and I'm sure you guys who know about that will be excited for that as well. And just one bit of news, I kind of picked this up that maybe everyone doesn't know this yet. I did email this bit of news and tweet it, but you may have noticed this week's guest announcement video said about you guys on the show, and I replied saying that it's just me now. And you may have noticed the last 6 shows perhaps, that I've been on my own. There's been no Left Chris, Right Chris going on, and very sadly for you who don't know yet, Mr. Hooley has withdrawn himself from the show, so he can concentrate on things in his own personal life, including his masters that he's been accepted for in creative writing, which is fantastic. And if you saw his tweet yesterday, he's just got engaged to his now fiance Paige, so congratulations to you both. You know, I wish you all the best, and we'll all support you from the show. So thank you for the time and commitment you gave, and obviously your family along with that. And well done, and you best pass that masters. That's all I'm saying, because you need to, and it's going to be a lot of effort, but it's going to be worth it in the end. So fantastic. So that's all the announcements done. So it's a bit exciting, but I'm excited even more so to bring on tonight's guest, who, let me try and get this right, is the author of 7 novels, which we said we're going to give them away. She's won awards for these novels, and they've been called heartbreaking and uplifting in kind of the best possible way. Her latest book, This Is How We Are Human, was released this June, and has had quite some amazing feedback already. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the amazing Louise Beech. Hello, Louise.
Hello, Christopher, or Chris.
I am actually Christopher, and the reason I've always been CJ is because the other Chris was Chris as well. So now it is Christopher is perfectly acceptable, or Chris, either way.
I quite like Christopher. It sounds quite official, like we're being sensible to start with. Maybe I'll end up calling you Chris.
Oh, I see how the night goes, is it? Yeah, fantastic. How is Louise?
Louise is, she's sitting on the floor in her front room because the best place for the laptop is the coffee table. But it's quite comfortable here. I feel a bit hippie-ish. Louise is fine.
Good stuff. Excellent. I'm just going to pop your book up in the corner there. This is How We Are Human. Fantastic is what it is. Obviously, this show, if people have watched it, they're going to know that we like to delve into certain areas of your life as, the inspirations behind all of your things. Halfway through that, we'll get some general questions on how your books are going now and what the projects are. And then at the end, of course, you guys watching, questions from the community. So be aware, listen out, and if you have some questions, save them up for the end, and you will get to ask Louise those questions. Hello to you all on the chat as well. Joanne, hello, says Christopher with the big capitals, and hello Louise also. Hello to you, Libby. Hello, Anya, and all the regulars that seem to be there. Fantastic. It's great to see you guys. Really appreciate you dropping by. So let's play this little ad. I've got some new videos, which is kind of exciting. I don't know. Do you think? Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, I love videos.
Yeah, I love videos. So I've broken this down to 3 parts now, and part 1 is the road to writing. I am quite, that gives me some nostalgia, and I'll tell you why, Louise. That was the very first intro music that we ever had on the podcast way back.
I love these. I love what you so.
Anyway, the road to writing. Yeah, the road to writing, Louise. Obviously, your career is taking you to where you are now, and I will talk about your website in a bit because it's fantastic. And if anyone, in fact, I'll pop it up now so people who are listening can have a quick look at it whilst we're chatting about things. It's louisebeech.co.uk. It's fantastic. It's so full of newspaper articles and pictures from events and literary festivals. It's just such a really cool website to delve into sort of your life. I got a feeling if you ever to write a biography, it's already there. You just copy and paste. Just get it in there. Yeah.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah. Ooh. Anyway, so the road to writing. Let's rewind the track and figure out how you got to this point and why writing became something in your life. What's the inspiration? Where did it start?
Oh, I thought you were going to play that thing again. You said.
No, come on.
Is it me now? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Well, it was a long road, and there were a lot of potholes in it, and there were probably no white lines to guide me, and there were probably a lot of double yellow lines so I couldn't stop. Is this a good metaphor I'm doing here?
We're getting there, yeah.
No, seriously, it took me a long time, and sometimes it's hard to think why did it take me that long, because a lot of time writers get asked, don't they, what degree did you do, what qualifications you have, what writing courses did you do? Well, I didn't do any. And part of me does wonder if that made the journey longer, because basically, when I was doing my A-levels, I got pregnant, and my son is now, get this, 30. I have a 30-year-old son.
Wow.
Because I was so young. And because of that...
Still are, of course.
Well, I'm trying. I've got some ring lights. They really help. Yeah. And that meant I didn't go to university, and it also kind of put me back career-wise for a while, because I was a single parent at like 20. And so I suppose I started later, getting my act together. But I began by writing newspaper columns, a lot of which you saw on the website, my local newspaper, about being a parent and just little witty things. But I didn't write my first novel until 2007. It was about 14 years ago. And I wrote that when we had been flooded and we lost our house for 6 months. We had to move out and live in this really awful place. My daughter was also really ill, and I took time off work to care for her. And it was during that time I found sort of comfort and escape in writing. Wrote my first novel, was really excited, as we all are, right? We were always very optimistic to start with that. We're like, this is going to be open all the doors and it's all going to happen. It's going to be amazing. And that didn't happen because of rejected by everybody, basically. So if I summarise, over the next 8 years, I wrote 4 books that were all rejected by every agent and every publisher.
Wow.
Honestly, and some people said to me, how did you keep going? And it was like, I want to say I had a feeling, and it's a bit of a cliche, but
I don't think it is. I mean, if you go slightly back when you said you went through kind of a bad time and you know, all those things, and you mentioned the word escape, my instinct was to jump to was writing that first book, Escapism, at that time, trying to deal with everything that was going on. And then for that to be rejected is a big knockback for someone who as you're absolutely right, when the first book you write, you kind of get that almost naive sort of confidence that, yeah, this is going to be good, or, you know, perhaps it's going to go somewhere, and that knockback can be quite brutal. But then to get knocked back, say 4 times as well, and still believe, you know, I think that's incredible. But you had that feeling I don't think is unusual, because people have a feeling that they're connected and should be going somewhere.
Yeah, always from childhood think that, because I did write little field exercise books, like I love writing, often do. And the escape thing kind of did begin there, because I did have quite a tough childhood. I was in care of an alcoholic mother. There were a lot of mental health issues in the house, and so I often used to write to escape. Then this always makes me feel like it's a friend. Does that make sense? Like writing is
absolutely, yeah,
friend. It's there for me. So like you say, when someone rejects that, it really hurts, because it's like they're rejecting a part of you. And so, but I just refused to give up. I just give up. So yeah, I just kept pushing on.
So you just got your head down and you carried on. What were you doing with the books? Were you self-publishing them at that time because they weren't getting picked up?
No, I don't know why I didn't self-publish, because quite a lot of writers have really done well with that and then gone on to end up being published on. I don't know why. I think I was just nervous that I wouldn't be able to do that part properly. Like I can write, but I did worry that, can I do the marketing, the proofreading, the cover? I was just a bit nervous about how well I would do that, and that put me off. But again, I'm not saying someone shouldn't do that, because I've seen some fantastic covers and design and all of that. You know, and we've seen some great successes who begin self-publishing, haven't we? You know, so
definitely. So what point then, after you've had these rejections, but you still had that inkling that, you know, you believed, you trusted your gut, and something told you to keep going? What happened at that stage when the first book actually, you know, got accepted? And were you by that point kind of thinking, oh, it's kind of not happening? But, you know, were you surprised when it happened?
Yeah, it was actually really, really emotional sort of little time in life. So basically, I'd got to the 4th book and it had been rejected by absolutely everybody. But it's shortlisted for a competition. There's a publisher called Legend Press, and they used to have a yearly book competition where the prize was to be published. And it's shortlisted. I was one of 10 who shortlisted. This was for How to Be Brave, which ended up being my first book. And I went on to London to this big award ceremony with my husband, and I had a really good feeling. And I had this really strong premonition that the winner was going to be wearing a red dress, right? And I genuinely had a red dress already. So I'm like, oh, I've got this really good feeling. So we went down to London, me and my husband. And the person that won did have a red dress on, but it wasn't me. It was another woman wearing a red dress. And I genuinely, hand on heart, was so happy for her, because I thought, I can't imagine how she must feel. But I admit, I cried all the way back to the hotel that night. I thought, can I write book 5? Have I got it in me to do that? And I was coming home on the train with my husband, and he was being lovely and saying, I hate seeing you this upset. Do you think, is it time to think, is this for me? But I was on the train and I was on Twitter.
Okay.
And I saw this lady called Karen Sullivan tweet that she was starting her own indie publishing company called Arenda. And she described that she wanted books that were kind of beautiful, original, and that she kind of started this because she hated saying no to books that didn't fit in a box, that were different to the norm. And it just spoke to me. And so it's not the professional thing to do, but what the hell? So I tweeted her, and I just described How to Be Brave, said how it had just shortlisted. And she said, oh, that sounds interesting. Send it over, and I'll read it and get back to you. So that was in November. So December passed, January passed, and by like February, I'm thinking, oh, this is not going to happen either. And then on the 9th of February at 9 o'clock, not that I remember, after that time, I get this email from Veronica, and it opened with, I'm really sorry. So I stopped reading because I just thought, oh, I can't take another one. So I went away, I'm confused, and I thought, oh gosh. And then I thought to myself, that was a really long email for a rejection, really long. So I went back, and she said, I'm really sorry I took so long to get back to you, but I loved your book, and I published it.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I
absolutely loved the fact that you basically got to the point where you were literally questioning everything you'd worked for. And you'd put yourself, you visioned the red dress and the success, and you were literally coming back, and that's the point where the turning point was. Yeah. And it almost feels like you said you had that, you feeling like you were meant to do it, and destiny was almost, telling you keep going and do this, and it took that failure to get you to the point where you succeeded.
It did actually, sometimes it's almost like you have to hit rock bottom, don't you, before the good thing happens, and that pattern's actually happened a lot in my life, and definitely. It's
crazy, but amazing. And of course, Arenda Books is who you're still published by now, and that relationship has clearly stayed strong. So, was there a lot of guidance and sort of coaching with that, or did you kind of fit right into the mold?
In the sense that I don't fit in a mold, I fit into the mold, if you see what I mean. Because it's been great, because all of my books are very different to each other. And this is maybe what proved tricky initially trying to get published, because understandably, publishers want to know where to put you on the shelf, don't they? They want to know how to support you and what you are. And I wasn't really anything. But with Arenda, I've had the freedom to write the books that come to me, the books that I want to write, and that's been marvellous. The freedom in that regard for a writer is just indescribable.
It's one of my kind of bugbears that sometimes people get rejected because it doesn't fit the current trend or something like that, because I know in the world, regardless of what the current trend is, there's people that want to read something. And it doesn't have to fit in that mold, so it bugs me when that happens. So for someone like Arenda Books to come and do that, I think is fantastic. But you mentioned that you have a lot of areas, but you have a lot of different genres that you write in as well. Is there one particular genre that you really like to write in, and what haven't you written yet that you kind of want to go to?
My favourite ones to write, I admit, are the more emotional ones. I find it very hard to write if I'm not emotionally connected. I mean, everyone writes differently, don't they? Some people, it's about the mind, isn't it? And maybe a certain thing, or the love weaving a plot or whatever. But I really have to. I always say that I have to feel it. I've got to feel it to write it. So I think, like, my more again, I'm trying to think of the words to describe them. The literary fiction, I suppose, for want of a better word, with the emotional stories, are my favourite. But then, having said that, last year during lockdown, I think it was a bit unusual for us all, wasn't it? I think we all went through a weird time. So I wrote two of my most unusual so far. In that, I wrote a memoir, and then I wrote a dystopian fiction.
Because they're the same, right?
Exactly. Which are even more different than what I've written before. I never thought I would write a dystopian book, but it was when. Do you remember when Rishi Sunak kind of told us all in the arts that we should retrain? Remember all that last year? Well, that obviously really annoyed me, because I thought, where would we be in lockdown without the arts? What have we been doing in lockdown? Watching films, reading books. These are the arts. People forget that, don't they? They think the arts is just artwork, photography, music, but obviously it's TV even. It's all the arts. And so I started thinking, can you imagine a future world where all books are banned? And that was what inspired me. And so I wrote a novel about a world set 15, 20 years from now, where I won't say why, but yeah, all novels are banned. And I had such a blast writing that, I really did.
It's a very interesting concept. Weirdly, like a completely separate thing, but it's to do with like teaching people about books, there was a cartoon called I Love Books, and I Love Books, and I saw it the other day, and I think it's great to actually get into people's minds about books young. And this is a cartoon aimed at kids, when a dog basically he reads a book and then goes on the adventure in the story, which I absolutely loved. So it's adding the opposite to that and bringing it into people's lives is great. I mean, dystopian fiction is a big jump from, say, romance or sort of emotionally engaging things like that. So is this something you're going to pursue, or do you think you're going to go back to kind of what you know? How is that going to work for you?
Well, the dystopian book is written, and something is going to be happening with it, but I'm not allowed to talk about that yet until that gets shared. That's absolutely what to say on that. So genuinely watch this space on that one. Would I write
a teaser exclusive? That's what that was.
A teaser. I mean, I'm trying to be patient. I'm not allowed to talk about it yet, but it's very exciting news. That's all I'll say. It's really exciting.
I was going to say, but that must have been quick then if you wrote that in lockdown.
Yeah, when did I started it last year? I wrote it I'm thinking there were 3 lockdowns, weren't there?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The one, I think it was over last winter, so it was the one like Christmas when we couldn't see our family over that period. Yeah, so the really horrible one, that wasn't it? The winter one, we were fed up, weren't we? And yeah, so yeah, that was fast actually. But I finally got myself an agent this year, which I never had, because I knew that this dystopian one was so different, and I ended up published memoirs. So so I needed to get an agent. And so yeah, that was exciting. She's lovely, Emily Glenister at DHH Literary. She's absolutely fun. She's so passionate. And when we first spoke on the phone, it was like we've known each other years. And when you have that kind of connection, you obviously just think this is right, this is great, So so the question was, would I write another dystopian, wasn't it? If the idea came to me, absolutely I would, because I had so much fun, because I've never written a book where it's in the future, so you have to create the world. It's like I had to literally think, right, it's 2030, what are the cars going to be like? What are the houses going to be like? What's the weather going to be like? And I had to think of all those things, make it quite dark because it's dystopian. So never say never is the answer to that. I'm not in my head now, but never say never. Yeah.
We've got some fans of the show that are very much into the dystopian, so they'd be very interested in that.
Okay.
But exciting times, yeah, definitely. So one question about your writing style then, because we haven't really touched on that. I mean, how is that now, and has it changed a lot since, say, your first 4 books that were kind of for your own self that weren't really going anywhere? Is there been much of a change in what do you kind of do now?
Oh, that's a good one, because I always, I don't know about you when you write, I always write for myself first. And then the way I see it is I edit with the reader in mind. I write what comes out of me, the story, how I feel it should be written. And then when I'm editing, I start to think, okay, I want other people to maybe enjoy this and read this.
Yeah.
And that was how I don't know if I've changed in the way I write, because I'm very true to myself and still like to write for me first, because I don't know about you, but I think if you try and please all readers, you'll please no one. So just please yourself, and you might hit the right mark, because maybe if you're enjoying it and you're happy with what you've written, hopefully that will.
Well, you would imagine if you're happy with it, someone else would be as well. But I love that comment, that edit to how a reader would want to see things. But yeah, I think you're right. If you are happy with what you're reading back, then someone else, I'm sure, will be too.
Yeah, because a good sign for me is if it makes me emotional. If I'm writing an emotional scene and I'm emotional, I think this is working. Because I can, hopefully.
I've only ever done it once. It was my second book, and I was getting a little bit upset. I was like, I can't understand what's going on here. I've got something in my eye.
That's really good. No, that's such a good sign.
Yeah. Well,
I love it.
Yeah, despair, I think. No, it is fantastic. So, I mean, are you a plotter? Are you a pantster? How does that work for you?
I'm not a plotter. No, not at all. No, I never know the end when I set off. Never know.
I am the same, and I really like that idea because you experience the story at the same time, and you get to learn all the surprises at the same time as well. So it's almost you enjoy that story as the reader does.
Oh God, yes, that's such a good way of putting it. And I think if I don't yet know what's going to happen and I do a twist, I think it'll work better, like you've just said, because I'm surprised by it and I'm excited and surprised by it, and it'll cross that way, hopefully. Anyway, no, yeah, and people often say, don't they, when we're people who do just set off like we do, they'll be like, well, how do you know what to write? How do you get there? Well, the act of writing frees it and opens up the story for me. Physically sitting down, beginning. Yes, I've got a loose idea. I mean, both of us obviously will have a vague idea of this character's going to do this, and then that, and then that. But I'm going to buy a red dress tomorrow.
That's a great comment by Anders.
Please show us a photo of yourself in the red dress.
Yeah, save it for the Halloween party and then show us. Okay, I've got two. In fact, we'll do that when we talk about the book in part 2 very shortly. So just to move on then, you've got to the point where you were signed by Render Books, and you had obviously a number of releases with them. And then before we get to what your new book is, how did you find, once you were signed, actually being part of something that you knew was the process now? You knew you'd kind of made it in that sense. How did you find yourself mindset at that time? Was that kind of like, right, I'm on track, let's do this, or was it kind of a bit overwhelming?
I'm one of those really annoying people that everyone hates because I just love every bit of it, because I've waited for it for so long, because I was 44 when I got my book deal. So I'm like, I've waited for this so long, since I was little. And when I was little, I used to go around telling everybody I'm going to be a world famous novelist one day. So because it was that important to me and I'd had the feeling, I was just so grateful that I enjoyed every part of it. You know, when the edits came, I just wanted to get my teeth into it. You know, then when the next edits came and then the proofread comes and all that, I was just like, I just want to get my teeth into it. And then obviously the next stage is, you know, it goes out to bloggers and you get reviews. And I was excited about that. Maybe a bit naive of me, but I was excited about that. And it comes every single stage. I'm so irritating. I'm like, I just enjoy.
I love the enthusiasm, and it's great to hear that, you know, when the edits come back and the proofreads come back, you can't wait to get into it, because it terrifies me if that was the case.
No, don't. I mean, they feel a bit scary at first because obviously somebody's put their fingers in your pie, so to speak. So you sometimes you are a bit like, oh, I don't know, like, but you don't have to agree with it all. If there's something really strong thing you want to keep, you know.
I mean, you can definitely see, if anyone did check out the website that I put the link to earlier, I mean, you can definitely see that enthusiasm, love for the craft coming through your website, because you have so many amazing pictures with different authors and in different situations, and the news articles and the articles that you wrote and are featured in. There's just so much in there that just shows life. It spews life, and it is your life, and it's fantastic. So, you know, it's brilliant to see, and definitely check that site out. Okay, should we go on part 2? Should we check it out? Yeah, part 2, here we go. So part 2 is called What's the Story? And this is the part where we talk about your latest release, which is up in the top corner there and has been a lot of your information scrolling across the bottom. So let us know what that is and let's talk about it.
There it is, little beauty. Can you see the shine on there? I don't know. A little bit shiny on the little snow globe. So, sorry. So what?
That's all right. Is it like one of those old football stickers? You get the shiny one.
Yeah, literally, like almost as if you could peel it off. Honestly,
wow.
Really
I like
cute.
that.
I do love it, and then there's the pink inside as well, which is so lovely.
Oh, that is nice.
I'm really, really proud of that one. Sorry, what did you ask me?
I said, you know, your new book. Tell us about it, and we can have a little chat about that.
Okay. Well, this one was inspired by some real life friends of mine. It was a super personal book. So basically, I wrote it back in 2018. And I have a friend called Fiona, who's a BBC radio presenter up here. And her son, Sean, he was 20 at the time. He's autistic. He's really marvellous. Absolutely love him. And I met her for lunch one day, and she was very upset, very emotional. and she said that her and her husband were having a lot of trouble with Sean because he was 20, and all he wanted to do was meet a girl, have his first kiss, have sex, fall in love, all those things. Mm-hmm. And it was just proving so difficult, impossible, because of his autism. And when he met girls, young girls, they didn't know how to take him. They weren't being unkind. They just, he unnerved people because of his quirks and his mannerisms. And she was very upset. And she said, I just want him to be happy, and he's not happy. And she said, would I be a bad mother if I thought about paying a professional to be with him? And I straight away said, well, no. I said, why would you be? And then she said, I'm not going to. She said, but the thought crossed my mind, and that was that. So she didn't follow that path. But obviously, as a writer, I came home and thought, oh, my word, there's a story there. Young man having difficulty, mother interferes. What if a mother did that? So I rang my friend Fiona and I said, I can't stop thinking about you and Sean and this predicament. I said, I really want to write a book about this. I said, obviously fictional. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, my word, you so should write this book. She said, because it's something that no one talks about. Yeah. That people on the spectrum, someone with special needs, the fact that they have as much right and as much desire and as much need to have a sexual relationship as anyone else, and often find it difficult. She said, please write this book. And I said, well, if I do it, you and Sean are going to have to help me, because I said, autism is a huge topic, and you have to be very careful, don't you, not to step on toes, not to get things wrong. And so I came up with 2 fictional characters. So instead of Sean, her son, it was Sebastian. And instead of Fiona, as a mother called Veronica. And then I have this young nurse called Isabel, whose father is very ill, so she's having to be an escort to pay for his care. So therefore, there's 3 lives, come together, shall we say. And throughout the book, Fiona and Sean read each chapter as I went, and we acted out certain scenes together so I could get Sean's voice right as Sebastian. Because I wanted to get exactly the way he speaks. There's just a certain way that's indefinable. I wanted to get it spot on. And it took me a full year, which is the longest it's ever taken me to write a book. Not normally that long. And I admit I was very nervous about this one, because obviously you probably know about the Own Voices movement, where people of minority groups write from a first-person perspective about their experience. I was a bit nervous that, as I myself am not autistic and I'm writing about that topic, I didn't want to step on toes or take a voice away from someone else. But Sean and Fiona encouraged me and said, you haven't, because Sean's voice is coming through in the book, so you're not doing that. It comes from a good place.
I honestly think you've almost highlighted an issue there that, as you said, people don't talk about, or maybe not even know about. So having done the research in the right way and gotten that story across, I think may do a lot of good, as opposed to possibly harm that some people may have taken that if it was done kind of untastefully. But I do have a question. Okay, there's two quotes on this book. One is, every now and then you read a book that takes your breath away. This is how we are human, just as that. You feel it from the first page to the last. Wonderful review. The next one is, a writer of beautiful sentences, and they are in abundance. This sensitive subject is treated with the utmost care. And my question on the back of that, you kind of touched on it there, but is, how do you approach a sensitive issue as an author? So maybe not just yourself there, but someone who's watching, who's thinking about this. How do you approach that, and have you got any advice for that?
If it's a sensitive topic that you yourself don't have personal experience of, oh my word, do your research. Yeah. That is the number one. I would have never written a book about autism just out of my head. Obviously, I would have never just done that. So, definitely speak to someone who has experienced such a thing. Obviously, do the research we all do for books, don't we? Like reading up on certain topics, maybe reading blogs written by someone who's experienced that. 100% do the research. Don't do any guesswork, because if you get it wrong, you could genuinely upset people, even offend people, couldn't you, if you get something tricky wrong. Obviously, if it's something you yourself have experienced, I actually think that gives you the freedom in a way to write it any way you want, because there's no comeback then, is there? Because you can argue that if I know this topic, so Yeah.
Has there been, I imagine with something like this, you're going to get a lot of support for what you're doing and possibly negatives. Has there been that kind of flip side of it, in terms of reviews?
Yeah, I have literally, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I've cried at some of the messages that people have sent me. They've literally sent that, they've got a child who's autistic coming up to that age, and this is starting to happen for them, and it's so good to read about it in a book, and people just saying that they had cried and got emotional and felt that someone was speaking to them. And I mean, obviously that makes me really proud as a writer. It's like what you want to do, don't you? I mean, there have been negative. And you know what's really, really, really sad? The negative has been from people I know rather than strangers. Wow. Strangers have been kind. The people I know have sort of questioned me when I said I was going to write it.
That's very interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should write, Louise. I know. Yeah. And that was a bit hard, and I tried to sort of say, well, I'm taking care with this. I'm not. Yeah.
It's great advice. I mean, the ultimate advice you had there, which is probably the best you can give, is do your research properly and make sure you're not, offending anyone. But moving on from this, then, this book is done very well. It's got, good reviews in that sense, and obviously you've talked about the books you've written since. Flip the genre completely. But I noticed on your website as well that you actually wrote a play at one point.
Oh gosh, yeah, you have to do research.
I was just absorbed in your website. I couldn't get off there. I was like, oh, okay, there's a play in there as well. Tell us about that, and how did you end up writing a play?
Okay, about I think about 12 years ago. I mean, first of all, I worked until recently. I worked in a theatre as a theatre usher, so I am fascinated by theatre. It was a great job because as an usher, we got to see all the shows, obviously, and I only left last month to concentrate on writing now. But about 12 years ago, I did a playwright course just out of interest.
Yeah.
This was a 10-week course, and I just thought writing is writing, whatever it is that you're writing, and it's all interesting, isn't it? And so as part of that course, we had to sort of start a play, you know what I mean? And when I'd finished, I thought, oh, I quite like this. So the play that it was became my book, Maria in the Moon, because it's about the floods and a woman at a crisis centre. And so I completed it, and then there was a competition in our area, and the prize was to get your play put on at Hull Truck, which is a theatre that I worked at. And I got chosen, and so it's on at Hull Truck Theatre, and it sold out. I was really excited. It was called A Float, set during the floods, which happened in Hull, so therefore a lot of people, I think that's why I came and saw it. And it's something quite different, obviously, to writing a book, because you see your words and your characters get acted out.
I mean, I'm assuming you saw it as well.
Yeah.
That is incredible, and it's a fantastic achievement. And it's weird enough to hear, say, an audiobook being read back with your character's words from one voice, but to see it being acted out properly must be crazy. You mentioned that you had worked there and seen a lot of shows. Do you have a favourite?
Gosh, there have been that many, because I've worked there for 7.5 years, and we're quite a quirky theatre. We're not like where they have just musicals. We have comedians and bands and one-off shows, and you have the musicals as well. So, oh my God, to pick one, that's really, really hard. There's a really fantastic one that comes every other year or every year that's about Mick Ronson, who was in with David Bowie in when he was back in the day in the 70s. He comes from our area, and there's this really great sort of show stroke concert where they tell the story of those days and that era of David Bowie and Mick Ronson through music and sort of things on the screen, and that's really, really good. It's a bit unusual. It's really, really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And what about music then? You mentioned music. Are you a music fan?
Yeah, I will listen to anything, but I'll tell you what's good for when you're writing, film soundtracks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because they're quite dramatic.
I do, but I fear that would sway my mood too much. If I'm listening to music, and I've weirdly, I mentioned a lot the podcast in the early days that my first and second book were very much influenced by the exact same playlist. In fact, I think it only had about 15 songs on it, but I was happy enough that they just went over and over and didn't really deflect from what I was thinking. But now I have to listen to some like weird rain noises and train tracks and all these weird noises on this website. But I've tried to go back into certain songs, and it depends on what type of song and what type of music, because if it's a certain type, it will influence me or distract me. And I know, when you look at Hans Zimmer, his music is just incredible.
Oh yeah,
Unbelievable. And I just don't think I wouldn't be able to get away from that and distract myself enough to concentrate on what I'm doing.
oh really?
So that's interesting that you use that sort of music.
Yeah, I love Interstellar, the soundtrack. That's one of my favourites. That's probably up there because it's quite long, so there's plenty.
Yeah.
And then, like you, I'll often make a playlist. For example, the book that I just finished, which is my next book with a render next year, is about a pianist. And so I listen to a lot of classical, seriously, that's just not like me, but oh my God, I had a blast. And I made a playlist with about 20 songs, picked out my favourite Chopin and Beethoven and that kind of thing. And just kind of fell in love with that kind of music, and I've never really listened to it before. And it was a real eye opener. And I mean, God, those guys could write music.
Yeah, I mean, did you think back to like when you're writing all these emotional books and suddenly realise you're listening to some quite dramatic classical music? Yeah,
definitely. And do you find that certain albums remind you of writing certain books? Because I do, because I have a few albums that I listened to in that era, and I'll hear it now and I'll think, oh my God, that reminds me of, I don't know, Paul Stardale, that reminds me of that. It's weird.
Well, it's the same playlist that I used. I remembered that it was the first song that always comes on in that playlist, and that's when my brain's still a bit open to that as well. So that start of that song every time puts me straight back in there. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's a portal in a way that opens you up to that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm really interested if people listen to music or not. And there's been a few people on the show, ask them if they listen to music, and some people are like, not at all, can't do it. But some people are like, must listen to it. And everyone's got their little quirks, haven't they? Sometimes like I wear my hoodie and I like pretend to be someone else, whatever. What about Lucky Charms? I've noticed I got a coin in my hand here. It's an old 5 shillings coin. It's huge and it's in mint condition. I tweeted about this the other day, and people are like, oh, that's really cool. And it's kind of my lucky charm. But do you have one, or do you have any weird writing quirks?
Oh God, you know what? I'm quite normal in that regard. No, I don't think I do. I do. No, I can't think of anything. I do. I mean, I suppose my only, not a quirk, but I don't know about you, but I always have to read the chapter before the one I'm working on to get back in the zone, always. I don't know if it's to get in the zone or it's just a little habit that gets me going, but I have to read the chapter before, then also the one that I'm in the middle of. I do that, but I don't have...
I'm not sure that's weird or a quirk, but I can see why you do that, but I don't think I've been doing that before. But some people have said they like kind of, I know you said you're pantsed in as well, which kind of means you probably wouldn't do this, but have you ever interviewed your characters?
Do you mean verbally or just in my head and written down?
Well, some people that have said they quite literally write out a questionnaire and then in their heads interview the character that they've written, which can be a good thing if you're like trying to figure out their strengths and weaknesses or fears, for example. But it's something I've never considered. I just wondered if you'd done that.
No, I haven't. I think because I see my characters so vividly and I know them so well, so intimately, it's almost like I don't need to do that because really feel all of them are all running around in my head, or I'll never forget any of them, and I can see them all. Well,
fantastic.
I probably belong in a hospital, to be fair.
Very shortly, guys, we will get questions from you to ask Louise and myself, or just Louise, or whoever you want to ask. Chris, Christopher, Louise, both. Start thinking about those questions and put them in the chat, and I'll be able to look at them and ask them. But before I do that, I'll ask Louise a couple of staple questions, and then we'll do the new family member, as always, and then we'll move on to the question time, okay? So, staple questions, okay? These could be a bit quirky. I put a new one in there today, and that is, if you could tell your younger writing self anything, a bit of advice, what would that be?
I'll tell her you're bloody fantastic.
You can do it. Keep going.
Yeah, just to give her some confidence. I'd maybe, I'd give her a big hug because she was a very insecure child. I'd give her a big hug and say, just keep going. The only problem is you've got to wait till you're 44.
I mean, I'm sure I've read someone like in the 70s or 80s got published
Yeah,
the first time and things like that. It's never really over. I mean, if you've still got that desire and belief, it's going to happen at some point. Maybe
absolutely.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of confidence boost to that young person.
Yeah.
Excellent. If you could take a character from any story, we'll again always open this up to TV, film, or literature. What character would you take? And A, would you put them into one of your stories? And B, if not, what would you do with them?
Ooh, so somebody not from my book, from something else, like a film or a great book.
Yeah, any character.
Oh, one of my favourite all-time characters in a book is Scarlett O'Hara, because I just kind of, if I was an actress, she's a role that I would want. There's something to get your teeth into, because what I love about her is she's not perfect. She's quite selfish, isn't she, and willful. Not the way that women were often portrayed back then. What would I do with her? Oh my word, I don't know. Maybe put her in a different era and see how she fared. Maybe see how she fared now. I bet she'd be pretty good during the Me Too movement, wouldn't she?
I really like that question, but what I never ask and would like to do with this question, and I'm going to throw it in there right now because why not? That character, if you could bring into real life, what would you do with them in real life?
Oh, me and her, we'd go out on a really drunken weekend somewhere.
Where would you go? Where's your place to go?
Well, so maybe we'll go to Leeds.
I'm not sure about that. Okay.
Leeds. Come on, that would be fun.
It probably would be. If you could change the ending to anything, again, TV, film, literature, it could be good or bad, reasons behind it. What would you change the ending to?
Now, I and ah about this. One of my favourite recent films is La La Land.
Okay.
And I understand. Have you seen it before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I understand the meaning and the sort of the premise of the film is almost, love or stardom. Can you have both? Which path are you on? So part of me, I don't want to ruin it if somebody hasn't seen it.
Spoilers ahead.
Spoilers ahead. Okay, quick spoiler ahead. I would have loved to have seen them get together, but then they wouldn't have had. I think if they had got together in the end, they wouldn't have had the stardom they had. And so, do I really want that more than them getting what they wanted?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one, yeah.
That is a tough one. Comment, go for it. That was in regards to the spoilers.
Is that with Leeds and Scarlett O'Hara?
Oh, yeah, probably.
I'll take selfies.
Okay, before we go on to new family member and questions for the community, again, send them in if you've got them. What does literary success look like for you when you're looking back on your career, sat in your rocking chair down the line? What is success for you?
Wow. A big enjoyment I have is I do love meeting readers. I really, really genuinely do. I hated the ending. Sorry, I was just reading the comment there. Meeting people, seeing my book physically as a physical thing is just pure joy. Yeah. Doing the book events, which is also meeting people, isn't it? Everything. How enthusiastic I am. Every bit of it.
I think it is fantastic. You are living the experience as a whole, and I really like that about you. It's not often you see it, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people that kind of struggle somewhere along the line with something, and something's a bit of a chore, but you just seem to really throw that vibe out there, the whole package, and it's amazing to see. An inspiration for us budding authors. Fantastic answer to that question. Okay, guys, send those questions in, and I will do the new family member now. And Louise, do you know what a GIF is?
Yes, it's the little moving icon thing, isn't it? It's not a video, not a photograph. Yeah.
It is. I'm going to play a video and introduce a new family member, which is someone that follows us on Twitter recently that has quite a lowish following, that we give a bit of a boost and say welcome to the family for. They may not expect it, but it's quite funny. But you get to choose whatever that GIF is. So while I'll play this video, have a think, and it can be anything at all. Any GIF, any subject or theme. Have a think, and we will get onto it very shortly. That is one of the most hilarious videos we play, and back in the day it was great. And even though we get some really good like well-established authors on now that probably don't like that. It's like we can never take that away. It is staying forever. Okay, so have you thought of a GIF?
Well, I'm going to be a bit Hollywoodish because I'm a huge Marilyn Monroe fan, and there are so many great gifts. She's a great giffer. She's just a fantastic person, isn't she, to be gift?
I'm not being funny. This is like an exclusive bell going off. We had Marilyn Monroe last week.
Oh no, really?
That's 2 weeks in a row we've had the same GIF. How incredible is that?
It's because I think she's just so iconic. She works well as a gift, doesn't she?
Yeah, but we've had like 160 shows on this show, episode seasons, interviews. I can't even speak now. Interviews on this show, and never have we had Marilyn Monroe before. And now we've had them twice in a week.
Oh, there you are.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah. Okay, so this. I'll get over that now. This person is called Timothy Hedden, at Hedden writes, at Hedden writes. And if you're listening back on this or watching it back in a couple of days, do it anyway. Reality TV editor. That's interesting. An award-winning writer. Well done. Writing your first novel.
Wow.
So that's a fantastic thing. He says, wish me luck. So good luck to you. Wish them luck on the tweet. He has 664 followers. So he's kind of got there a little bit. But needs still a bit of a kick. So welcome him to the family, to WCCS or to the Writing Community Chat Show. Say good luck and send him Marilyn Monroe. Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Brilliant. So whilst everybody might be looking into that,
I'll do that tomorrow. I must remember.
Yeah, you'll see it kicking around somewhere. We'll do it after the show. So we're going to part 3, which is the community question time. And this is one bit I love often, sometimes because the questions we get from the community can be often a bit unusual. But that's what makes them so much fun. So if you do have a normal question or indeed an unusual question, please send them in right now. And I will play the new video for that too. So we have a few minutes left of the show, and so we do have time for these questions, and they hopefully will be a few more as well. The first one coming from Anya Pavil. Thank you, Anya. She says, what is the most disturbing story you have ever read?
Ooh, did you mean novel, like, or factual stuff?
Why not do both? I think that'd be kind of cool.
Novel. What's the most disturbing novel that I have ever read? Wow. I read a book called Lamb. I can't remember the name of the writer, but if you Googled it, is that ringing a bell for you? You went. Yeah. It's written from the perspective of this man who was run away with an 11-year-old girl. It's very sort of Lolita, but much darker and much worse. And
it wasn't Christopher Moore, was it?
No, I'm sure it was a woman, the writer. I feel sure it was a woman, but could be wrong.
That's what made me go, ooh, because he's been on the show a long time ago, and he wrote a book called Lamb. I don't think it's that one.
I feel like it was a woman. Yeah, and it was really, really dark, and people might think, oh, why would you keep reading that? But it was so beautifully written, considering the dark content, that I kept going, and yeah, that was really good. Actually, that's the most disturbing. I can be quite morbid, so I do look for awful stories, to be honest. And I once, it's not pleasant to be fair, I once Googled what are the worst ways people have ever died. And there was some, I actually probably wouldn't say.
Really? What, is there an entry-level bad way to die you can tell us?
Well, this poor man, apparently he fell, like a hole in the ground that leads to the sewers type of a thing.
Right.
He fell in one, but for whatever reason, the water below was boiling, and he fell in up to his waist, so it just boiled the skin off him.
No way.
And I was like, and then I thought, why am I reading these? Louise, you're very ill.
Hang on, why is the sewer water boiling?
I don't know. It was in some country where it was hot. I can't remember the details. I just remember the horror of the thought of standing in boiling liquid.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen videos of like those things exploding. So I'm guessing there is like a pressure system in there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe one of them. But isn't that all?
Yeah, there's like one of the medieval things, and they're not entirely sure if this is true or not, but you know, remember the bull, the brazen bull? They used to put people in like a bull and then cook it. That was, for me, that's always been a horrible idea. But they don't actually know if it was true or just like a propaganda thing. But they definitely made them. They're big bronze bulls, and they put you inside, and they just put a fire under it. Horrendous.
Absolutely horrendous.
Medieval times were a bastard, weren't they? I mean, they were evil people.
Absolutely, we did things to one another, didn't we? Basically, you know. But then we still are, really, aren't we? Just in a different way now.
Joanne Paulson says, "Oh my God, remind me not to Google the worst ways to die." Yeah. I mean, that has got to be for a crime writer one of the most interesting things. If you ever got your house raided by the police for whatever reason, your search history, they will be questioning that, won't they?
Oh my God, yeah. I do get a bit nervous sometimes, and what I have to research, because I remember I had to research for Call Me Stargirl. I had to research how much, what's that drug called, the GHB drug that you give to knock people out. I had to research how much you have to give, and I went online to see how easy it was to buy, and went as far as putting it in a checkout box. It's easy to buy. I was so shocked, and it's not that expensive. And then I thought, somebody could be watching you trying to buy this.
What is it called?
You know what I mean? GBH, DHB.
If you let us know, guys, on the chat, if you know what it is.
The one that knocks you out, doesn't it? What you give to people to knock them out so that you can, do horrific things to them. It's terrible, but I needed to know.
I love the fact you put it in the basket, though. Got to check out. See how much it is. Wicked. Thanks for that question. Joanne Paulson says, Louise, do you work with sensitivity editors? If so, do you find them helpful? That's a great question, and I didn't even know that was a thing, so thank you for that.
Apparently it is a thing, yes. It's a thing now when sensitive issues are written about, like I suppose about disability or, I don't know, people of colour or LGBTQ books. I don't know. I have never had a sensitivity reader, because apparently it is a job now, that there is a role of a person being a sensitivity reader. However, I do get certain people to read my books that I know that topic, and in my head, they're my sensitivity readers. Like obviously, so This Is How We Are Human, my friend Fiona and Sean, they were reading it as I went. And I had when I wrote The Lion Tamer Who Lost, which is a gay love story, I had a lot of my gay friends read that just to see if I'd got that right. And I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it, in a way, to have someone read your book who knows that topic to give you some feedback.
I mean, I wrote a story about a young lesbian lady, and I didn't research a lot of it, so I haven't had any complaints, and I'm hoping I didn't offend anyone. It's a good sign, right?
I'm sure your imagination worked fine there.
No comment. Anya says, roofie, rehypnol, or fluntism. You've listed quite a few.
That kind of a thing. I think the middle one is the one I've heard of.
Rehypnol, yeah.
Yeah, but what's scary is how easy it is to buy.
Okay, I'm not going to try it, honestly. Okay, where are we going? Okay, done that one. Okay, Louise and Chris, a dual question from Libby Carpenter, thank you. What is your writing routine? Do you write every day?
Not every day, because it's not possible every day. You'll probably agree with me here. I try, because it is a really good practice to do something, even if you can only do a couple of 100 words that day, because of continuity and keeping in it. But it's not always obviously possible, because, I don't know, if I have a day where it's a busy social media day because, say, a new book's come out, or I'm doing a couple of these kind of things, then it's maybe not possible. So not every day, but most. How about you?
I struggle a lot since this podcast started, and it's just I could prioritize things more, and I think a lot of people are in that situation where they really have got more time than they think. When I'm drafting, I love the drafting, and as a pantster, I think you probably do as well, and a lot of people resonate with that, because you are experiencing the story. It's kind of exciting every day to get there and see where the story goes. But when it comes to like redrafting, this is the stage where I go, oh, I'm busy, and so it kind of slows down in that respect. Not every day at all, and I really do want to try and prioritize to a fact where to the point where I can get in every day. So it's a goal, but it doesn't happen yet.
Okay. my go-to when I'm not doing it every day.
But let us know, Libby. Do you write often, every day, and everyone else? I'm not entirely sure on your processes, but it'd be interesting to know. Another
Yeah.
one from Joe. Thank you. I'm writing a story I have no business writing, really. Does a passion for a social issue overcome the voice appropriation problem at all?
Ooh, how to answer that without knowing what the social issue topic is?
We can move on from that one. That is a
It
tough one.
is, isn't it? Does passion compensate for, say, a lack of knowledge, shall we say, and experience of the story? As long as you use that passion correctly and maybe use the passion to make sure you get the voice right and do a little bit of research, I guess.
I think you've got to go back to research, because sometimes the passion can be misleading as well.
Yeah.
It's still your knowledge at the end of the day, and as passionate as you might be about it, you might not know certain facts. I mean, no one's ever going to know all the facts, right?
Well, there's nothing worse, is there, than reading a book where it's obvious that no matter how well written it is, when it's obvious this person actually doesn't know this topic at all and there are grave errors.
Yeah.
It comes out of the story, doesn't it?
That put me off once. I was going to write like a space story. I'd never done that before, science fiction. And this guy I asked, he's like very, very, very educated in like physiology, space science and all this stuff. I don't even know what the terminology is. And I said about hypersleep in the first thing, and he's like, "What's hypersleep? It's not a real thing." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's in all like the classic movies and stuff." He's like, "Yeah, but it's not real." I'm like, "Oh," so I just scrapped it. I was like, "I can't do this."
No, but it could be. If it was a science fiction book you're writing, you can have hypersleep.
I know.
Making it up.
Aliens, perfect film, best film, one of the best films ever. Come out of hypersleep.
Also, so seriously, hypersleep, you can't go into that then. You can't do it. It's not real.
I don't know. In my mind, you can. Why not?
Yeah, well, exactly. It's your book. You put what you want in there.
I might go back to that one day. Thanks, Joe. Awkward question. Not awkward, but interesting. Very interesting question. Yeah. But she did say
it was a social issue.
Definitely doing research, yes.
Yeah, do your research. Yeah, absolutely fine. And I think if you do the research, I think your passion will get get you through.
Leeds is the place to go, Anders.
That's the red dress.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're just gone over the hour, so what we'll do is we'll have one more, which is a great question to finish on, and then we'll do the spinny destiny wheel and pick a winner for your books that will be given away by Orenda Books, which is fantastic. And again, the list is quite short because of the people that kind of excluded, because it was only UK, it was on the tweet, and the fact that some people did one part of the 3 things I asked them to do, which are very easy things. So there's not a massive list, but those people are on there.
Well, they've got more chance therefore, haven't they?
Yeah. So Libby has got the final question. It's a good one. Do you ever write when drunk and edit sober?
Yes, I've been known to do that. It's a thing, isn't it, doing that? It's a good thing because, like she says, as long as you edit sober, then and tidy it up and all of that, I think sometimes we're freer.
I have done it. I have, and it's one of those things where I draft very quick. I first draft very quickly anyway, and when I look back, I normally have a lot of work to do. But when I look back over drunk drafting, it's been like, ooh, there's a lot to fix on this sentence.
Yeah. But the heart's there, and the maybe unusual ideas are there.
Yeah, the passion's there.
Yeah, definitely.
Misguided passion, of course. Okay, Louise. Just before we'll wrap things up, let's do the Wheel of Destiny, and there it is.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's 11 people on there, including a couple from Facebook. Right. These actually followed the steps properly. So when you look in the future and there's competitions on, which I do quite a lot, we buy a lot of books. I'm going to introduce very soon an exclusive competition on the Patreon page. I didn't mention at the start that the Be a Token book promotion is still available, but I'm not really pushing that. So where my income could come to help this show out would be from Patreon, and you can sponsor like £1 a month if you really wanted to, or a lot more. So there will be exclusive competitions on there moving forward. So if you want to sign up to that, you can see in the description of the podcast or the YouTube how to sign up to that. And it will be worth your while to support this show, because there's lots of ideas that are going to come from it. So whilst I do this, As someone who has a premonition, Louise, what colour do you think is going to come out on top of you?
Oh wow! I ought to say red, aren't I? After the red dress.
I think so.
Go on, then. Let's go with red then.
Joe says, I'm very sad that I missed this, darn it. Yeah, we do apologise. It was kind of a UK exclusive. I will try and make up with something for the US. I'm guessing it's to do with packaging thing. But, so, we're back in red here. So, and here it goes. Good luck to you all. Attention. We are going to... Stop.
Oh my god!
It's red. It is red, and it's Andrew Thipperton. I don't even know how to say that name. Apologies. Thrippleton. Andrew Thrippleton. He was red and amazingly called it.
Congrats, Andrew! I can't believe it's dead. That's such a good sign. I'm going to take that the rest of the week's going to be really good.
It is. And is there a premonition about this show, about how it's going to go?
Well, all I'm definitely going to say is he's been one of my favourite ones. No, truly, it's
Louise,
so you've done such an amazing job. It's so cool.
Just before we go, so you guys who didn't see the Harrogate show, we met in real life, which is fantastic at the Harrogate show. You sat on the big green chair, and you can watch it back and see what Louise said on there. And on the banner that I took, you signed on there. Do you want to tell everyone what you drew on the banner?
Some breasts, did I draw?
You did draw some breasts on the banner, which is fantastic. Do you have any literary events lined up now?
Upcoming, I'm taking part in the East Riding Festival of Words, which is a big festival that's up here where I live near Hull, interviewing a couple of writers. I'm doing a talk for the Women's Institute next week. How scary. I know.
What are you going to say?
I know, me at the Women's Institute will have to, behave.
Yeah. I've been asked to do something, which is crazy. I've been asked to go to a school and do a talk, which I'm quite nervous about.
I've done university ones. It's only online because it was in lockdown. But are you going in person then?
Yeah, in real life. Yeah.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. You really. What age?
A levels. So.
Cool. You'll enjoy it really much. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see. It could be a disaster.
Honestly.
Anyway, guys, do check out Louise's website. It honestly is fantastic. It's full of everything, and you'll spend ages on there. And again, check out This Is How We Are Human. It's a fantastic story and a concept, and you are psychic, Louise, Libby says. It sounds an amazing idea, and we can't wait for the dystopian news, by the way. Keep us informed with that.
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, everybody, and I promise when I'm allowed to share, I will share.
Definitely. From us guys here in the imaginary studio, please look after yourselves. Oh, Friday's show. Let me announce Friday's show for you that are watching. Ryan Wilson, he has spent 10 years as a teacher. We're talking about teacher in English. And he went on to do masters in broadcast journalism. He actually wrote his book called, if I can remember what it is, Let That Be a Lesson is what that's called. It's about his 10 years ups and downs as a teacher. But then he worked on Good Morning Britain, which is a big TV show here in the UK, ITV News as well. And he went undercover as a Deliveroo worker to find out how his staff are treated, which I can't wait to ask him about. So Friday's show should be it will be very interesting, quite revealing in a lot of things I can imagine. And as a presenter in ITV News and things like that, I imagine a lot of stories. So for me and Louise, we will see you in the world of social media, and see you on Friday from me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.